and very good morning to all of you, whichever time zone you're in. And thank you so much for joining us, Chetan, our guest speaker for the day. So, quick round of introductions here. This is Gautam from Microsoft. I drive the venture capital and private equity ecosystem here, and also handle corporate innovation initiatives at Microsoft. So it's a pleasure in having all of you today attend this session, which is going to be a deep dive into creating winning pitch decks. So this has become more of a ritual for us. Every Thursday we all catch up for the highway webinar. I think the best part is while tough times continue to keep coming up, it's about the tough people that we are, right? Because it has to be business as usual. As entrepreneurs, we know one thing that continues to exist, which is we are going to be the job givers, and there are a lot of families that will depend on our venture success as well. So while tough times happen, I think it is the tough people that we are as entrepreneurs that is very, very important. So my regards to all of you. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's teams and their families are doing well. But having said that, I think it's very important as entrepreneurs to keep the ship sailing, and that's where we are here as Microsoft as well to ensure that your ship continues to sail. While we are here to empathize and support you through your journey, we know that it has to be business as usual. So on that note, I would love to invite our guest speaker for the day, Chetan Bhatia. Chetan, has been one of the best when it comes to working with organizations on their, storytelling, on their pitch decks, whether it's going to be an investor deck or the sales deck. He comes with over 14 years of experience in the marketing and sales space, and has worked with hundreds and hundreds of companies, in refining their, pitches, right? Pitches both, there's always a pitch that you make to your customers or your sales pitch. There are pitches that you make to your investors, and Chetan has played a big role in supporting hundreds of organizations. And he comes with an experience of working both with Fortune 500 clients as well as with a lot of startups. So I think that's where this group, as startups that are rapidly growing, can really make use of Chetan's experience. So the way we're going to be running this session is, while there is Chetan's expertise, and learning coming out from him, we are trying to make it as interactive as possible, because ultimately this is a topic where you don't learn by just giving gyan. It has to be by doing it, and that is the entire reason why we've decided that let's keep it interactive. A couple of you, founders have volunteered to, share your pitch and get it reviewed on the spot by Chetan. So we're going to be having that because by doing it is what we learn, and that's how the agenda for the day is. And all questions that you have, keep putting it out on chat. I will pick it up and I will keep sharing it with Chetan, right? Because there are a dozen questions, and if there are questions that can be combined, I will probably combine it and ask on behalf of all of you. So on that note, Chetan, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about today's session. This is always, a topic that's close to my heart, because ultimately, whether it is your sales pitch or your investor pitch, the storytelling is very, very important. It's all about connecting with the ultimate stakeholder. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Gautam, for the introduction. I hope you can hear me fine. I'm just checking
Yes.
once.
Hello,
Hi,
Chetan.
everybody.
It's a lot. Pleasure to
All
meet you.
right, awesome. Pleasure, pleasure. Very excited, to talk to this bunch today, because I know entrepreneurs are not just from India, from outside as well. So it'll be a good mix of discussion, different people, different regions. And see, the idea is, yes, everybody has a version, or maybe they're creating a version of their pitch deck and preparing for the fundraise. But the idea today is, whatever I've worked, since I do that for a living, and I'll show some examples of things that have worked, and then maybe the next part, which I'm more excited about, is we'll see your pitches. We'll have you present your pitches in maybe about 5-7 minutes, and then it's not just you will get the feedback. Everybody else in the group, even if they are not presenting, there are a lot of common mistakes sometimes. So in the next half an hour, we'll go through the pitches by the people who have volunteered. Thanks a lot for volunteering. This is actually, real value add of this session, and I get more excited by, the second part, of course, when I see you all pitching. So let's get going. I would actually like to present as well, just sharing the screen. And Kabir, if you can let me know once you see it. Yeah, can you see the screen, Kabir? The presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, lovely. So just want to introduce using, a slide as I do that day in, day out. But from my perspective, personal experience, I started off back in advertising about 14 years ago. And this is where I, really got into the visual sort of design. But then, I wanted to study more. I went to US to study design and marketing from University of Cincinnati. I think people who know Cincinnati, Procter and Gamble is based out of their headquartered there, so the biggest advertiser. So there's a lot of the marketing ecosystem, and then that's where I learned that designing is a lot more than just making it look good. It has to be around understanding the business, how they do the research and everything. And then, fortunately, I got to work with a lot of Fortune 500 clients as a brand, as a client actually, because I was presenting, I was pitching a lot of services, IT services, because I was then, working for a digital marketing firm. So that's where, I started using presentation. So I thought, this is something I want to do for a living. I came to India. I headed marketing and sales for a couple of marketing tech platforms. And again, all these roles, presentation has been part of my life day in, day out in the last 7-8 years. And finally, I felt that there is a gap. When I was, on the brand side, I really took a lot of my time, and still I didn't really get the right kind of presentation, even if I had to outsource it to somebody. So I felt that there is a need for somebody to just do that, and that's where I started off. Honest Create. We essentially do just pitch and sales deck mostly, apart from intros and other stuff. But mostly it's about working with a lot of exciting startups like you and founders who are passionate, who are doing really cool stuff. So been really fortunate to work with some good clients over the last 1 year. In social, this is more short form video. We've helped them in the Series A, esports, and just showing the variety of clients, because the idea is that these are D2C brands. This is cloud kitchen. This is retail as a service, and then of course we've done with artificial intelligence and other stuff. But the idea is that the structure has to be same, right? Even though we work with different clients, but the idea is that once you get the structure right, the process right, it doesn't matter. Like of course, you need to dig in and understand the industry from the founders yourself, from Google. And so I'll take you through the process in just a bit. In terms of the workshops, also been fortunate to not just work with startups on their pitch deck professionally, but also review a lot of early stage pitch decks. So that's where this session is also about. The idea is that once the investors or prospects are looking at hundreds of pitch decks every day, there is usually about 4 to 5 minutes that they would spend. Only if they obviously like the first slide, they'll go to the second, then they'll go to the third. So that's why the narrating the story to create an emotional connect is very important. And the second part of it is not the design part, but visualizing what's there on your slide. Sometimes I've seen that founders do get the story right, they do get the design also, but the effort to read is not minimized. on the slide. So the visualizing is a very important part of the pitch deck. I'll explain you the difference between visualizing and design. So the content visualization as well as the design part. So we'll try to structure it, every pitch deck or sales deck, even you would do that after this session into three parts. And I'll give you, directions how to do that. Uh, Usually when I ask people, in any of my workshops, they would say, the story or even the visualizing. When I'll ask them to prioritize between the three, probably story and the visualizing, is something that they would prioritize over just making it look good. So just, a quick round of answers from you between the three. What would you like to prioritize? If you can put it in the chat, that'll be nice. Gautam, you can let me know once you have the results. I mean, few answers. We can wait for like few seconds. Between the three, what's the most important aspect of a pitch deck for you right now?
Is that me? Did you mention me?
No, everybody there. I mean, I was just asking, the story, the design, the visualizing. What of the three is more important when you want to prioritize when you're creating a pitch deck, or you have done your own pitch deck? So, which one you sort of paid more attention to?
The first thing, right? The first thing I paid attention to was the story.
Yeah,
And then we adjusted the designs after it.
yeah. So we'll also, see your pitch deck in a bit. Uh, moving on. Gautam, are there anybody else who's also put in? I was not able to see the chat as I'm putting on full screen here.
And then
Right,
but
right.
very
So I think
important is that
we're seeing a pattern of folks going for story first
Yeah,
over others. Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, let's talk about story. Also, we'll go through your pitch deck, in a bit, and maybe in detail we can talk also, like how you got your story, right? You said that story is what you paid more attention to. So let's also go through in a bit the story of your pitch deck. Okay. Uh, I'll also take you through one story that we have permission to show here through our client, and this is not the final slide, but of course, because of confidentiality, we've got some of the story slides which were designed, not the last version, but you'll get an idea. So this is about Kirana King, basically the grocery store chain based out of a city in India, Jaipur. So what they're doing is they are, transforming the local Kirana stores, right? Because that's sort of, strong pillar in retail. It starts off by talking about, how Kirana stores are still a strong pillar of retail, irrespective of how modern trade, is growing, right? It's important to tell the investor, the industry is big. In their case, this starts off with talking about market. Then, it's talking about how everything is changing around Kirana stores, right? The consumers and the FMCG brands, the consumers are actually, their needs are evolving and FMCG brands are answering. But, the Kirana stores are in the middle. They are pretty much the same since the last 20, 30 years, marginally changed because the innovation hasn't been much. Even though the modern trade, we've got now groceries at home and, there are supermarkets, but the local, grocery store that's in a very small town in India, they're pretty much the same, all these years. So they haven't really capitalized, on the rise of innovation. They didn't need to also, but there is a huge opportunity if they capitalize on that. There are problems on all the three fronts. Now we're talking about the problems that, after we talk about the consumer behavior and overall change, we talk about the problems here, which are on the three fronts. And then we talk about the solution bringing out, Kirana King. So these 6, 7 slides actually just give a little more context before you launch and start talking about the product. And after that, of course, we talk about the traction, how big they are and everything. And, they are slightly obviously early stage. They want to raise Series A. Series A. So for them, it's important to talk about the process and why they exist, right? And how their technology is actually answering. Tech part is very important in any pitch deck to scale the business like retail. And then once converted, it's also showing that how it's helping their end customers with more revenue. So that's about one storyline. I thought so. This is more about the opportunity space. When we want to talk about opportunity, how big the opportunity is. You can probably uh, take this route where you talk about the market first, then you talk about the existing problems and then the solution. So now there is another way to tell the story. Sometimes you can also use a persona to tell a story. So this time I won't speak. I'll just switch the slide, and will the idea is that you also get it from seeing the slides yourself. After we talk about the problem, then we introduce the product. So essentially, the product helps you follow your passion by doing three things, and it curates the resources. It helps you connect with other people of similar passion, and then it also gives you expert guidance. So, so the idea here is that I've used about 8 9 slides to introduce the product. So a lot of people have this in their mind that okay, I should probably do the pitch deck in 10 or 15 slides because the investors they don't really care about how long your pitch deck is. I'm of the view that you should actually get the story right, because if the story is not right, it doesn't matter even if it's in 10 slides, 15 slides. Because a lot of times what happens is if you're trying to confine to 10 to 15 slides, either you try to do too many things in one slide or you try to omit some of the important parts. So in the story, try not to do that. We've done pitch decks for 25, 30 slides as well. So, I mean, I am not of the view that you should restrict to 10 or 15 slides. I know some of you, might have done that. You Google, you see a lot of formats. Okay, maybe try to do that in 10, 15 slides, but it's not easy. For a product like Niviro, you need to first set the context. If it's interesting, they will read on, right? It's not about the number of slides. It's about, how you're bringing out the problem in the slides. Does that make sense? Any questions there? Please feel free to ask in between as well. I know a lot of you might have tried to restrict to 10 or 15 slides. And sometimes, any accelerator or incubator would ask you, that's a different thing. Sometimes they do ask, we just need 10, 15 slides and do this way. You may want to have a different version, but at least once you have the longer version ready, you can try to concise that or maybe try to fit into 10 or 15 slides if needed, but I ideally, don't prefer that. While I was switching the slides and not talking, I was just counting 1 2 3. The idea is that once you have the slides ready, the key message should come out in as less as 3 seconds. And the way to do this is actually when you play Pictionary, you might have played it with your kids or maybe when you were a kid. So it's about explaining something to somebody by not writing and by drawing. Sometimes when you do that for your slides, trust me, it makes a lot of difference. Even though you can't draw well, but then you will get an idea. Okay, this is what I want to communicate. Now let me put it in the slide. So try doing that for every slide you do. Like I'll show a couple of examples here. This is the slide done by a founder of a cloud kitchen company. They want to tell to the investor that we're gonna launch multiple brands throughout the day so that the kitchen is fully utilized. It's not just we are selling one food in lunch or dinner, which is their obviously main brand, Kabuli Wala. But they said that we launch multiple brands so that the kitchen is fully utilized. So instead of reading too much and still missing the main message, we created something like this. Of course, the colors are as per the brand, but the idea is that you have brands on the top, different time of the day, the kitchen in between, and at the bottom you also have different target audience. So something like this, of course, this was done almost a year ago. Today, if I do, I might do it even better. But the idea is that something like this is more likely to be remembered by the investor than something like this, which is just text. So try to do that. This is the exact thing I did. I tried to basically draw whatever they wanted to say, and there's a good difference between a well-designed slide and a visualized slide. So this is a well-designed slide by the founder, but again, the problem here is, and I felt that a lot of slides in the pitch decks that were shared have this problem that the message is right. They articulated well, but the thing is, you still have to read through a lot, and sometimes it's easier if you do something like this for the investors, just to sort of take them through the key message. So same thing being told more pictorially here. Team slide, usually, it's not that every time we have to visualize the team slide, but sometimes there is an opportunity to bring out the numbers and the experience a lot better. Even just putting logos of company makes a lot of difference when you're coming from, the founders are coming from really good companies. In this case, we visualized the slide and, created something like this. This is again from the Mibiro deck. The idea is that here the founders were actually, part of one company before they started off Mibiro. So this just brings their sort of whole experience and everything a lot more in a crisp way. People get it immediately. Competition slide is a very important one. Most of you sort of have that in your pitch deck, and this is again done by the founder, neatly done. But it doesn't talk a lot. How exactly they are different. Even the visual here of this office visual, these two women and a man. I mean, it doesn't add much to the main message. I know it looks good, but sometimes you get tempted to make it look good, and you forget the main message. So here we created the competition slide, the landscape, putting all the brands on it, and while also figuring where they are in the matrix. So you take an x-axis and a y-axis and try to see which variables you want to show, maybe the two variables you want to show, and then try to map your brand there. And you can also use the space like we've used on the right hand side just to talk about the USPs. So that's another example of a slide visualized, and I thought so now I think maybe the difference between visualizing and design is a lot clear now. When I was talking about it earlier on, this is what I meant. For us also, this is something that one of our visualizers actually did for us, when we asked them initially in their interviews. And this is really, captures what we also do. A lot of founders would come to us sort of with so many ideas. I want to talk this and that on my pitch deck. I mean, what we do is simplify and communicate it to the investors. So this is just our business visualized. And so just to show you, maybe one thing you can do is try to visualize your business while we are talking here today, and then maybe show like how you visualize. Just draw it out and see if you can communicate your business model by not putting any text. So, any questions in between? So if you have any questions, Gautam, just feel free to ask me while I'm switching the slides. I know we can have the questions also asked later on, but if anybody has it, just feel free to ask. If you want me to show the slide again, I can go back. So numbers, of course, investors like to see the numbers for sure. So for my numbers, I think what I felt after creating, all these pitch decks since the last 2 years is, you need about 2 to 3 slides based focused on numbers, at least initially. When I say numbers, I'm talking about financial numbers, your projections and everything. In the first version, when you're sharing a pitch deck, you don't need to talk a lot about numbers like P&L and balance sheet. The investor initially doesn't want to see that. They would first see the story and get the same, the growth metrics and the a couple of important slides are enough. Maybe then they'll call you for the next round and then you can show the other numbers. For example, there is also an opportunity to show numbers in other slides, not just the number slides, but sometimes when you're talking about your operations or anything, you can obviously highlight the numbers a lot better, like it's highlighted here. Little things like using bigger font, different colors, and just highlighting when you are. This is mostly to do with hierarchy of content. Sometimes if you use different font sizes and everything, it just brings out sort of the contrast better. And then a neatly laid, a growth metric slide. Depending on, of course, your business, these metrics will be different. But then something like this is neat enough. I see a lot of founders try to do a lot of design in this slide, try to avoid that, just focus on the numbers. And, of course, the fundraising slide, you can just maybe create a simple pie chart and split, where the money will be going. Something like this is simple enough. So I'll talk about the process now, which is a very important part of this presentation, like how you can go about just, structuring how to go about creating a pitch deck. I would say if you have about 40 to 50 hours, you can actually get there of creating a good pitch deck yourself. It's about giving time. A lot of times founders don't have the time. That is the problem. And for us, it's an opportunity. Of course, we come into the picture not just because founders don't have time, but yes, I mean, we also bring in a different perspective, and you have a third person also doing it. So, I mean, apart from that, I think the process is important. If you can spend 40 to 50 hours, you will end up getting a good pitch deck, I assure you. And start by, talking about just the story. So create an Excel sheet and just sort of make two columns. Okay, the first column is what do I want to communicate on each slide? The key message. What do I want the investor to take out from this slide? Just put that message. Okay, I want them to realize that, we are the biggest potential, startup in the retail. That may be the key message. But you might want to have a different content to support that key message. So this is, one of the examples from medtech startup that, we work with. So their story line. So doing something like this helps you actually just think about story, not just think about design and everything at this stage. Think about how will it flow first, then jump into the design part. So once you have this ready, try to then put all the content, on a sort of on a slide, this is not the design slide actually. This is just sort of a black and white version. We've colored it, but then the idea is here we are just focusing on visualizing. How can we visualize? The fonts are all big and everything. How can we communicate the main message by just putting, create a sort of a black and white. Even if you want to draw it out every slide, you can draw and put it in a slide. That's fine. So this is a black and white version, more like a skeleton is what I call a wireframe. And then, we jump to the main design. Then after this is approved, you take feedback at this stage from people, because here, the design changes don't take a lot of time. Here it's more about how we visualize and what content we put. But then once you have this feedback taken and you feel that you're confident about the story and the visualizing, then you start designing. Give it a week again and start designing. All three stages usually take a week, at least for us, because we focus on multiple projects together. But then, as I'm telling you, if you can give about 40 to 50 hours on each of the three, not on each of the three, the entire pitch deck, but then a week or 10 days for each, you can actually get a good pitch deck at the end. So try following that. This is just one pitch deck which actually concludes my part of the presentation, just to give you the process and few things that I have learned from pitch decks, creating pitch decks. So now I want to obviously review your pitch decks and also take questions at this stage before we jump to that part of having the founders also present their pitch deck.
So Chetan, there's a question that I would like to ask you. You did mention two things in the last 10 minutes. The first thing was, that the approach to making a pitch deck would be make your long version first, and then come down to the shorter versions, right? And on the other end, we also did mention that different stakeholders will insist on different versions of pitch deck, right? So there could be
Yeah.
accelerators that you apply that want a shorter version focused on certain things. The investor pitch
Yeah.
deck could be different. So what
Yeah.
is the approach that you would suggest when someone goes towards making these? Is there any standard approach that you would suggest on that?
No, standard approach is, go for the version which gets your story right. Don't worry about who's asking what. That's what I was also saying, that, when you're getting your pitch deck together, go for what really gets my story right. Ask people, take feedback. Even if it's 25, 30 slides, that's fine. But go for the longest version first. And then, of course, depending on what investor is looking, if they're saying that, I don't think so. In personal, my experience, apart from some accelerators and, incubators, which have a very strict sort of, template, investors don't really ask you, okay, send me in 10 slides, 15 slides. So that's about you and getting your story right, that you should, send the pitch deck with sort of the right message coming out. And that's why, the process helps you take feedback at every stage. That's why I insist on creating through this process, because then you can, ask other people, other founders, before you jump into design. Because after this, when you jump into design, it takes a lot of time to do the changes. So even if right now it needs changes, after you pitch to a client and it needs changes, you still should do it. The pitch decks, they usually keep evolving, but I say go for the longest version first.
And two more questions. A lot of questions coming your way, Chetan. But the next
Sure.
question for you is, what are some of the thumb rules that you maintain while breaking down the larger version into smaller version specific to the different stakeholders? Right? It could be a sales stakeholder or a customer. It could be an investor. It could be an accelerator. What are some of the thumb rules that you say, okay, this is what I will include in the 10 slide deck for the customer, 10 slide deck for the investor?
Yeah. So, the what we've usually experienced is creating a pitch deck for an investor is better. It should be done before creating a sales deck, because, when you're creating it for an investor, you get the story right. Even you talk about the customer side of you talk about a lot of things. So, once you have your pitch deck ready, there can be certain slides, obviously, you'll take for your sales deck, but you need to talk a lot more than just that. So maybe you'll have to add on some slides for the sales deck. You need to talk about, what the customer will get. You need to focus on the customer more in the sales deck. But the story and the main product is important. So that will come out in your pitch deck as well. So that's one thumb rule, that try to do the pitch deck before sales deck in case you're considering to do both. If you have time, of course, if there is customer, obviously a lot of times sales decks are already made. It's not, because that's how the startups get traction, right? They don't go for investment or funding immediately. But the thing is, after you do a pitch deck, and it evolves your sales deck as well, it evolves your overall brand. So try to do that. I mean, try to get the pitch deck right. That's the first some rule. The second one, again, it's not about 10 slides or 15 slides. I guess sales deck should be at least more concise. It should talk about the case studies. It should talk about, how your product sort of will simplify. It should also be contextualized for that client. A lot of times, you can create a slide or two. You can have a general version of the sales deck, but you can add a couple of slides for that client. And I think a lot of you might be doing that. But that's another sort of rule I wanted to talk, that, make it contextualized for the brand as well. Even if it's just one slide, you can do that, the first slide, that this is the problem we feel. These are the three things we can do for you. So that's about, the sales deck. And I think the thumb rule, as per the thumb rule, yes, the 10 slides. I'll also, just talk about these 10 slides. So this 10 slide doesn't mean, obviously, that you need to have only 10 slides. The idea is that, these are the important slides, the problem opportunity one, the value proposition, the USP, business model, how you're going to make money, the monetization part, the competition team, financials, as well as the usage. These are the 10 important slides as a thumb rule. Try to put in all these, even if your other, your pitch deck is 20 slides or 15 slides, but these 10 slides, these 10 aspects you should talk about on your pitch deck.
Right. I think that's a gem there, Chetan, in terms of, while you have a general deck, always ensure that you're
Yeah.
contextualizing it or customizing it for every stakeholder
Yeah.
who receives your deck, right? So there's no one size that fits
Correct.
all. So on that note, something that is a conflict as a founder always is it's always easier making the 25 slide deck is what some of us feel because we want to write so much about our baby, which is our venture. It's always like you said, making that 10 slide deck is always the tougher.
Yeah.
First one, which is why you probably encourage on making a 25 slide deck first, pour everything out, and then bring it down to a 10 slide deck. So the conflict that
Yeah.
all of us have is we want to pack in a lot into our decks. Basically, everything
Yeah.
that we see and breathe about our startups, we want to put it onto the deck. So how do we really keep aside what is it that we will narrate or share when we present a deck versus what goes into the visual presentation? Because I think when we start presenting visually, the amount of
Yeah.
text comes down drastically, and
Yeah.
and it then needs to be added or complemented with a script that we are able to narrate while that particular slide is on the screen. So
Yeah.
what are your tips for having the three-part story to the deck, which is go with the story, then the visualization and the design. While that is there for the deck, how do you what would you suggest for us when it comes to the script that we need to prepare while presenting that particular slide?
So yeah, very good question, and I'm glad you asked that because I forgot to talk about this aspect there. That a lot of times you feel that okay, don't take the key takeaway today that okay, Chetan said create a longer version deck. Don't worry about 20-25 slides. See, the point is if you don't get your story right and it's not interesting, then obviously it's a bigger problem than sending a 10 or 15 slides, which is obviously condensed and it's harder to read. So I would say between the two, go for a shorter version. But the story is something that sometimes as I told you, if you put in, the founders are the best people who can tell their story. But the founders also are inclined to talk a lot. They want to talk each and every aspect, and that's a very common thing that we also feel when founders come to us that they want to talk about this, that, five more things, but then it's very hard. We just tell them, okay, hold on, let's talk about the three most important aspects. Let's not talk about everything, because if you talk about everything, the first thing is in your investor deck. When the investor is seeing it, they won't get it immediately. They'll feel like okay, they'll miss the important parts, because out of the five things, three are always the most important, right? You might be making more money out of the three things. So I would say prioritize. It's very hard. Let go of things. Let go of the other two things, two, three things that you want to add on. Even though you're very attached, but try to take perspective from outsiders. From people like you, from the group here. If the group should also talk about their pitch decks with other people in the group. Take as much feedback as possible. Sometimes we don't do that. That's what will get your story right. And I think if your story is right, then doing a 20 slider is not a problem. But if the story is not right, that's where it's a very tricky one. If you put it too much, and then it's actually gonna work against you. So that's what you should follow. Get your story right, but get it right after feedback with people. Try to talk to a lot of people to get your story right, and let go of things. Don't be attached. you know. So yeah, Gautam, I think that should answer your question.
Absolutely. And another add-on question to that is, would you also suggest that we work on a structured parallel script that we keep handy while presenting? Because, like you said, visually
Hmm.
we are in 3 seconds they should understand what we're trying to
Yeah.
say. But
Yeah.
there would be a lot of facts and figures that we would love to add on, and we would not want to clutter the page. So, what are
Correct.
your tips on keeping that script handy? What are
Yeah.
things that should be there? What are things that should not be there? How do we approach it? If you can add to it, because
Yeah.
then it will give us a 360-degree view on what is
Yeah.
it that we need to keep handy for the deck, what on the script.
Absolutely. No, so this is a very important part. So when you're visualizing, usually it's very difficult for a human being to also sort of listen to what you're saying as well as read what you're saying, what you put on the slide. For the investor, I'm talking, and it's very difficult to do both the things together. So try to use your slides as a visual sort of a add-on, so that whatever you're talking impacts him more by looking at it, and try to keep your speaker notes of which will add on to the conversation. Let's not talk about the same things that are already there on the slide, because if you've got it visualized the right way, I don't think so you need to explain a lot to them, right? But then yes, the speaker notes should be, as you said, right, there can be some data that you want to talk about, there can be some emotional and human element you want to talk about. Like in a couple of cases, you want to talk about, yes, we are creating a network of rural entrepreneurs, but then why these rural entrepreneurs actually succeed is, because they have a trust factor. The trust factor with the local villagers is very high of these rural entrepreneurs. So some things like those actually add on when you have the right visuals. You can use the visual as creating a emotional and a visual impact on the investor's mind together. So keep those speaker notes handy. Try to talk about the nuances. Try to also use speaker notes as something that helps you also in a way that it's easy for you to talk also. Sometimes I can, then we feel this that pitch deck can say a lot of things which are right, which have to be said, but the investor is, and but the founder is not comfortable talking about it, with the same passion as it's there in we're talking about a big vision on the pitch deck, but the founder is for some reason not talking with that sort of passion, right? So it's very important that you sort of you're comfortable talking what you're talking. You may be thinking on a different line, but that's where when you're creating a pitch deck, you should also be also speaking it out at every stage, so that people can give you feedback and take feedback from people, not just for pitch deck but also how you're talking it out.
Perfect. So I think perfect time for us to move to the next section. We've
Sure.
handled close to about 7 questions now.
Great, great, great. So this was good. I hope it answered everything. Anything else, you can obviously email me, and happy to take those questions. We'll let me check, and we can have the founders, if they are here, present their pitch deck. These were the pitch deck features. I think Kabir and me, because we had a time limit till yesterday. Whoever had sent, these are strictly according to that. The conversion AI, somebody from the team here, the founder or somebody, they had sent their pitch deck yesterday.
Hi,
Hello, hi,
hi
hi.
Chetan. Hi Gautam. Yeah. So I'm from Convergent.
Okay,
I
lovely.
actually it was Lintang that scheduled to be here, but he couldn't made it. So I will be presenting in place of him.
Sure,
Okay.
no issues, no issues. Please go ahead, and we'll try to restrict it to about 5 minutes, just in the interest of time. So I think your deck anyway will be done, because I saw the deck and it's not a very long deck. So let's start. I'll also just make notes to give you the feedback later on.
Okay, I will share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, is it on?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Hi everyone, especially Chetan. So we are from Convergent AI. We are a data capture company from Indonesia. So
Okay.
basically, nowadays we live in the world of data analytics. Yeah, it's a very hot topic. Everybody is talking about that. But nowadays, people don't realize that most of the data is offline, such as papers-based documents and governmental documents like ID card, taxpayer card, etc. And
Yeah.
most company needed the data to be able to process either for the onboarding or for the invoicing, etc. So we need to transform the data from the offline to online. Hence, as we put it on the slide, the data entry is actually the step 0 before the data analytics. So, but the size of the offline data is so big, and there are various data that need to be processed, and there is the skill set needed to process the data is different. Hence, to capture from offline to online, we need more people to process more data. Hence, more cost, right? So, Convergent AI provided ready-to-use APIs to capture the data. That is from the ID card, for the taxpayer card, until the receipts for the membership or invoicing for the company. And since it's automated, there are the need for human interaction is less. Now, what's different between ours and the other company is that the other companies use template-based, where the position has to match perfectly. Like we have a template for document A, where the document number is on the side and the date is on the left. But since the invoice is dynamic, there are sometimes the document number and address is on the right side. The template base cannot capture that. But we've made our model using AI to capture not the position of the template, but the information in the document. Hence, with various templates, various position, we can still capture the same data needed for the extraction. And this is it has been run and trusted by various companies in Indonesia, such as BCA for the banking industry, financial services like OVO, Imani, loyalty program for the mall, for legal documents too, and for retail companies, since the documents and the warehousing document is very large. And there are other competitors that do the same thing, but we specialize in Indonesia because there are basically no other company doing that in Indonesia. So the localization is our key feature. And since we are in the local space, we know exactly what documents that are needed. So there are more documents that we can process compared to the others that basically focuses on more general documents like receipts or invoices. And our founding team is 3 of us. Devin is the operational COO, and Lintang is the CEO, and I am the CTO. We are from the University of Indonesia, and we all did research in machine learning and AI before graduating and founded this company. And we also backed by several mentors. This one is Pak Only. He is the CEO of GTP Labs and CTO of GTP Ventures, and Pak Risman Adnan is the research director at Samsung Research Indonesia. So both of them give us perspective in the business and technical side. And we are also backed by GDP Venture, venture capital from Indonesia, and Amatil X, venture capital from Coca-Cola Amatil. Yeah. So, and our numbers is we try to get feedback from the customers. So, for the customer onboarding, we save around 77%, since we cannot really from the people to enter the documents to just checking whether the information entered is right or not. So from entering data to the validation, and then for receipt extraction as well, and for intelligent document processing, we have to time productivity. So 100% productivity increase. Yeah. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
Got it. So, so this is actually good. I mean, there are a lot of good things that I like. Especially the first slide is pretty good. I think you have got it, head on with the headline as well. The data entry is actually step zero. The only thing you can do to improve this is when you were talking about it, you were also saying a lot of things, so which can be actually visually also shown. There was one point you were making that probably in the why it will increase cost because there are various skills that you were talking about for various type of data, right? And probably something like that you can add on in this slide or the next slide. If you go to the next slide, yeah, here. So my only concern here is, and this is just purely coming from somebody who doesn't, who may not, the investor may not know a lot about. Everybody knows about APIs, but maybe you want to just talk about a couple of use cases, right? In terms of, visually also show that, if somebody is putting in document, like in the last one you showed the three use cases that you use, right? The 70% where they had big numbers. So maybe you want to talk about like, normally in what cases, what are the problem, right? How does the API work in the whole system? Like sort of visualize it that, okay, this is what the data comes in for example, one of the use cases that you can pick up from the three you talked about, and then take them through the journey. Like here, I feel the visual is pretty much the same as the first one. It's not saying a lot. It's just saying that in the middle, okay, the document may not be possible, but you can probably talk about how the API will be used, like the entire process. Not going into very technical also, but then just giving overall thing that how the API fits into the whole larger scheme of things, right? So that's one thing you can show in this slide because it's not coming out right now. After the first slide, this needs to be also as good as the first one. The first one actually talks about whatever it has to. The only thing that you can add on is that, because various skills are needed for various type of data, it just takes a lot more cost. So maybe in the bottom, you can talk about that and try to show that, the three things that you have talked at the bottom, you can actually show that visually, that offline to online data, is actually human data entry. And because of human data entry, it leads to, you can put arrows because these are all connected. More data is actually, more people actually more cost. So you can connect the 3-4 things together and then talk about why it's leading to more cost. Again, I'm trying to visualize whatever is written. It's actually nice otherwise as well, but just to improve it further, you can do that. Try to reduce the effort to read. And if you go to slide 4, that's where I felt that, see, this is your core product. Yeah, this is your core product, right? This is where you introduce your product. I feel that, the problem isn't really coming out until you explained. So what I would actually want is if you can actually, first of all, context-based and template-based, try to sort of segregate them and make it different color because context-based is conversion and template-based is old school.
Okay.
So try not to share, same colors because then, it doesn't look that you are trying to differentiate between the two, right? Maybe put a versus sign in between that, okay, this is template-based and this is context-based. It just brings out that you're trying to create a difference between the two. And if possible, try to use actual images, also somewhere of your product. So what's missing in your entire pitch deck is, the actual stuff, maybe it's more a visual concern again, that you should also have sort of some visuals of actual products, how it's working. So that's missing right now. Like private collection of real world data assets and proprietary algorithms, probably you can create 2-3 icons and put it like these are the 3 main things. Right now it doesn't feel like these 2 are your main things. Maybe you should try to have a band at the bottom and just put your 3 main things there. So it's not differentiated right now. The overall hierarchy of content it's very hard to figure, okay, you're talking a different thing at the bottom and you're talking the difference between the two. So try to do that in this slide. It's a very important slide. Uh, if you go to the team slide, I felt before that, I think the competition slide needs work. The competition slide actually is not bringing out. If you go to the competition slide one,
This one.
yeah, because conversion AI. First of all, try to create a more sort of in a vertical way. Try to create columns of each rather than this way. It's very hard to read this way, and I cannot figure that okay, conversion AI is actually different. It should have a different color. This at least the row should have a different color, and probably doing it in columns is a better read. Because you understand. Okay, like I can show you an example in a bit, but if you do it column wise, it's better than row because it makes a different sort of contrast. You can obviously have conversion AI in one column in one color, and the others can be in different colors.
Yeah.
And also try to do what I showed you, right? The matrix, the competition matrix that I showed, maybe two variables, and try to map where you are versus the others. And the third thing you can do is, even if you do the table, try to reduce the number of variables, because right now I'm looking at about 9, 10 variables. Maybe 6 or 7 are good. So try to do the most important ones.
6 or 7, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's easier to read that way, It's just,
Yeah.
Otherwise. So that's about this. And then team slide, I felt that you can highlight your degrees a little better, the machine learning and what you have all studied. Like if you go to the team slide.
This one? Yeah.
Yes. So here also, again, it's very hard to read. Try to maybe just put bullet points or your, because the machine learning and what you've all studied is something like common for all of you, right? So it needs to come out. Maybe the other things cannot be bold, but then the most important thing should be bold here. Master's degree is something that doesn't need to be bold. The machine learning is a more important word. Let's try to maybe put bullet points. Try to put bullet points because it's very hard to read otherwise. Yeah. Anything else, Gautam, if you want to add on? I think from the pitch deck point of view, this is it. Customer onboarding is, I think, the last point I wanted to talk about. If you go to the 10th as well, so these are the 3 different sort of use cases, right, that you're talking about. The customer onboarding, documentation, the receipt attraction, and the intelligent document processing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I didn't really get that. I mean, I obviously understood on my own when you were talking, but the headline and the content you need to sort of match, because the current status and milestones is something what you have achieved as a company, right? Maybe you want to put those, like how many customers you have, and just in numbers, maybe put some financials. I think the financials, I know it's a teaser sort of a deck. It's about 10 slides, 11 slides, but you can add a couple more things on the story, at least, a couple more slides, which are talking about a little bit in detail, okay, what your product does, not go technical, but then just sort of explain a couple of use cases. I think those are missing. A person will be able to understand, the impact you are making a lot better if you just create a couple of use case slides for your clients. Apart from that, good stuff. Congratulations and good luck. And somewhere you need to also mention, sorry, how much you're raising. If you are sending it out as an investor deck,
Okay.
That part is missing. That okay, what is the kind of fund you're looking at?
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Perfect. So I think we'll move to the next startup, but Rohan, good job. Just that final 2 points I wanted to add, which was, if you bring in a use case for one slide, say for example, you're extracting data from a mortgage document, right, for financial services. Show that and say how it gets extracted and where does it get extracted to, right? If you're able to show that, the before and after, I think it'll be great. And because the common thought in this space is are you another OCR or do you sit on top of OCRs, right? That's a common question that comes up, which was not answered on your deck, right? Whether
Oh,
are you, because there are a lot of open source OCRs available. So how are you differentiating from them, right? Because you're enhancing the extraction quality. So do you sit on top of existing OCRs, etc., right? So those are questions that will come out on the face of it from a business perspective. But overall, very good presentation. In the
Thank
interest
you.
of time, I'm going to quickly move the next startup. Sorry about that, but we're just going to keep it to 10 minutes per startup so that we cover all of them.
Sure, sure. So, okay.
So Chetan, do you want to invite the next one? Who
Yeah,
was
yeah.
you?
I was just talking. Just a second. I'm just opening my. I think it's an insurance tech platform. Just opening the pitch deck here. I think it's Agilex. Are they there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. I hope I got the name right. I was looking at the phonetics that you mentioned.
It's Agilix. A lot of people miss the second
Juliet.
I, so they all say
Oh, okay,
Agilix. I
okay.
have seen this, so probably I need to do something on that. But almost 90% people miss the second I, so they don't say Agilix. They always say Agilux.
Oh, okay. I'll keep that in mind. Yes, yes, I know with the name thing. Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Please go ahead and share
It,
your screen. Thank you.
yeah, just give me. Can you see my slides?
Yeah, yeah.
First of all, after listening to you for over the last 40 minutes or so, I feel like I shouldn't be showing my slides here.
No, absolutely. We'll make it better. Let's do that. So now at least you got the context. That was the idea of just presenting
Yes,
because
yes. I
the
think
feedback
one thing,
you will understand.
yeah, one thing which I feel is the process. The storyline how we should do it. We never did it. We straight away pick up one template and the Sequoia guide, and you just started doing from there. And that's, I think majority of guys do that. They don't really have this process thing. Second thing is definitely the visuals makes, I think, a lot of difference. We will have our team screen, but the way when you show the comparison, right, the team screen and what you guys design, I think it changes the whole game. Anyway, I won't go into detail. Let me quickly do the pitching, and then probably you
Sure,
can say.
sure.
Hi guys, morning. I'm Deep from Agilix. We build software for the insurance industry, which focusing on insurance companies, brokers, and agencies, and software as a service, cloud based. Most of you must have some experience with insurance. It just seems too slow, whether you want to buy a new policy or applying for a claim. A lot of these things are pretty slow because one of the key thing is the technology is old for most of these guys. Uh, what is need of the hour is cloud, SaaS, mobile, and all those things for, and which a lot of insurtechs are trying to do. But insurtech is a very small component as compared to the huge insurance industry, and that is what exactly we are trying to help. We are helping insurance companies to compete with insurtech in other ways, you can say. A lot of this whole context is from the Asia point of view. US, Europe are still way ahead in terms of automation, digitalization of insurance companies. So my story is mainly around Asia, and within Asia also specifically Southeast Asia. We are doing software for three different components, three different players. One is insurance companies, one is brokers, and one is agencies. Different customers have different types of problems, so we are addressing those problems. So we are not doing everything what an insurance company needs. Our focus is the digitalization aspect. We want to launch policies online, sell policies online, claim submissions online. Those are the things what we are. Brokers are somebody who are in a very bad shape in terms of overall automation. So here we provide the full end-to-end solution. Agencies are something which are very close to the, I mean, no matter how much digitalization we talk about in terms of insurtechs are doing, but still 70-80% of the sale of policies happens through agents, and they don't have that great software. So we're building the whole solution for them to be able to serve the customers better. So there are multiple solutions for multiple stakeholders in the industry. Globally, it's a huge market by Gartner. It's almost 50 billion plus. But for us, of course, we are not straight away going to the global. So what we have done is we have drilled down into the 7 countries where we are focusing upon. We have counted every insurer, broker, and agency in this country, and estimated the estimation size of the project which we'll be working with them. And from there, we got it's close to $500 million industry. And of course, this is as per what we are selling right now. We'll be adding more products, we'll be adding more countries. So this market size definitely will go bigger and bigger and bigger. This is what we have done so far. Our major customer is Baltac, which is operational in 5 different countries, and we run their entire show. We build our product actually together with Baltac, and after that, we started offering to other customers. AWG, our first customer, which is a broker in Singapore, and other than that, we are in talks with at least 15 to 20 different potential customers. Around 5, 6 are in the range of the POCs, and we are hoping to close at least 2 more customers in this month. We are hoping. This is what we feel is quite a big advantage over many of other competitors. We have deployed our solutions in 6 different countries in Asia Pac, and every country has its own uniqueness in terms of regulations, in terms of languages, currencies, taxation. There's so many those kind of things. We offer all of that. Somebody from coming from overseas will have full solution, but they will not know the local thing. Our software works with almost every SMS provider, payment gateway, e-commerce, all those kind within the system, integrate with the accounting systems locally. We have integrated with a lot of local providers in terms of telcos, marketplaces, Tokopedia, Lazada, Shopify. We know all how those things works, and we can offer support in local languages in all of this Asia Pacific. There are a lot of countries in this Asia Pacific, or to be specific, around 10 countries, right? Everybody has their different languages. We can offer support to which a lot of competitors from overseas won't be able to do so easily. This we feel is quite a big advantage as per the other guys. We are in a very early stage of thing. We are currently in the range of $1 million kind of a revenue, and we are hoping to hit, or we are targeting to hit 100 million by 2026. And of course, over the period, we'll be arranging finances to support this growth as well. Go to market is 4 different ways, but as of now, the first 2 are only applicable. One is we are selling ourselves. Second is we are looking for the partner. So when we started last year, June, so this is what we managed to do with just 2 salespeople, me and one of my guy, and we build a pipeline of worth $2 million. We closed 1 sale from here, hoping to close at least another 2 this month, and there are many other which are in the pipeline. And then this year, we also started our second channel, which is going through the partners. Response actually went very well. We are already engaged with at least 20 over partners within, mainly are in Asia Pacific, but some we are getting from even global also. And response really is good, whereby a lot of these guys have like a ready leads who need a solution. So there are at least another 10 customers we are talking to through these partners. Good part is the partners shorten the sales cycle quite a bit. Our sales cycle is like 3 to 6 months. This cycle can be like 1 to 2 months because they already have existing relationships. We have companies in Malaysia and Singapore, and soon we are setting up in India, which will be operational. We are currently in the process of setting up. This month, we are hoping to close that whole thing, and operations will start. To the beginning, we'll start with the R&D development kind of a work in India, and then probably because we see there's a good potential in India for our sales side also, so we'll start that process also expanding. As a team, we have more than 11 years of experience in B2B SaaS and 6 years in insurance. We already have done quite a bit of work in Southeast Asia with our first product, which was a second CRM. It's a cloud-based CRM solution launched in 2011. And we feel that we have quite a good experience to take this thing through. We are building up an execution team, our can say is leadership team. A lot of people are already in place. Few more we are on the process of bringing in. So we feel that by end of this quarter, we will have quite a good team which will take this thing. Competition wise, there are tons of people, of course, who are selling insurance software, but majority of these guys are traditional guys, legacy software, Windows based applications and those kind of things. Very few are the one who are actually started doing the new age kind of software. So these are some of the strong competitors which we have, but majority of these competitors are still not pretty much in the countries where we are. The top 3 guys are pretty much Hong Kong, some portions of China. Simbo is pretty much in India. The Uncharted is in Canada. Though a lot of these guys, of course, are trying to be in Asia Pacific, but still a long way to go. And if we do well, actually we can be the market leader at least in this part of the world. Then of course from here we'll go further. Funding wise, majority of funding is in-house, means money coming from our earlier software, which is second CRM. We got small funding here and there from accelerator program and some from the government funds. But now we want to raise $1 million from a VC, and which will be good enough for next year or so, and then probably we'll raise a second round. And this is how we'll be going to use that money. Thank you very much.
Sure. You're welcome. Thank you for taking about 5-6 minutes, which is good. So I actually want to talk about a couple of things. I think the story in the initial slides, it's InsurTech, and I think you might have felt it when you were presenting to a lot of investors. You probably would be talking a lot more than what's there on your slide, right? I believe not everybody gets it immediately, the problem. So I feel that maybe you have to, sort of, take the problem a little bit more in detail. Like if you go to the second slide, just one slide, I know you might have taken that template of problem and solution, and probably that's why it looks also the same. But I feel that
I have one question here. Actually, the reason is that we have a suite of products, not one. So that also makes it a little bit difficult to.
Yeah. No, I understand that because, the second part where you're talking about how insurance agents are an important part, and still a lot of solutions are not doing anything for them, right? As you also mentioned, I don't know how true it is, but I think if that's what you're saying, then that needs to also come out, right? That can be one of your differentiators, that insurance agent, even though a lot of competition out there are becoming marketplaces, they're trying to sort of get both the people together, but they are ignoring the agents. We are actually focusing on the agents, right? And we are also creating a technology for the agents. So all those things need to come out, before you jump to the other part. So I would say these two slides, you probably have to sort of detail them a little bit. Don't worry about just, because even though you're talking on the second slide, the problem, each three of them obviously are a problem, right? In detail. I cannot understand somebody not from insurance. I don't think so. I was so much, sort of overwhelmed, which I should be in the problem. I should see, okay, this problem is really big, and you have a very, very big problem that you're solving. So I feel the second slide, needs more work. Maybe if you want to split it and just take it step by step, why it's the problem, into even 2 slides or 3 slides, that's fine. Because problem slides you can probably take into a couple of slides, but then the solution should be at least one. So that's the rule I also try to follow. But it's important you tell them, okay, what's the context of your product. Before that, jumping into straight, they won't get it. And I think Gautam, you also coming from finance, I think you would also agree there, right? What I'm saying, like I don't know how much you might have got more than me from the problem slide. But
No, I think just to add one final thought there, Deep, is that you have multiple user segments, right? Customer segments and then user segments, because your users may not be the customers, right? Agents may be users but may not be the ones paying for it, right? So I think that is something that needed to come out in terms of, at a user segment level, what are the problems and how are we solving it? And obviously, all your users may not be your customers as well, right? Your customer may be one who ends up paying for the multiple kinds of users. So I think those are two things that I felt could come out, because it's a strong, value proposition from your end as well in terms of how you're addressing it.
Got it.
Yeah. And number slide, just quickly going on the next one. See, on the right hand side, these numbers, probably just to make them come out better, you can highlight the numbers bigger and the other text smaller, because nobody wants to read the other text. If the numbers are bigger, they just highlighted a little better. And it's just a design thing. I thought that since it's an important slide, you might want to just highlight the numbers better. Going to
I want to know that slide. I don't like the table thingy. What is the way to present this kind of thing?
I was gonna say that you don't need to detail it out. This slide is actually you can omit. I mean, if you want to, because even if you club your 525 million opportunity in the previous slide, that's good enough. They don't want to see the detail right now at this stage. They want to just see, okay, how big the opportunity you are going after. So I
Right.
would say that don't worry about splitting it. I know you've done work on this and got the numbers. If they want to ask in detail, okay, how is it? I don't think so. They'll be surprised. Given it's a fintech, 525 million is something that that I don't think so. They'll ask, okay, how did you get to that?
Right,
It's
right,
more
right.
about putting that number there, which is the addressable market, right? That's important. So you can probably put that in the fourth slide itself and get rid of this slide. I would say the table and everything,
Okay.
and the traction when you go to the next one here also. I feel that the 14 million active policies, these are big numbers and I'm missing them somewhere just because of the design. The numbers are not coming out well, so try to highlight those numbers a little better. And what you're talking below Boltec and AWG can be a little smaller. That's not, I would say, for me the important numbers are on the top. Of course, Boltec and AWG insurance are the logos are needs to be highlighted, and you've done that. So that's about that. And the unfair advantage one, right? This is again a very important slide and a lot of content here. So you need to reduce the content on the right hand side. It's just too much to read. I know it's very important, and when you're talking, but I see that you can probably reduce it by at least one third. Maybe one line each is enough for all the four aspects.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The headline, I mean, the headline can be better in unfair advantage, and I mean, you can also say the comparative advantage or the USPs, because it has to be a little more direct. If I'm not reading it, so I was not able to get it until you were talking
Sure,
about
sure.
it.
Sure, got it.
Revenue target again, you can show sort of it looks like a hockey stick graph. You can probably show that graph and see, maybe talk about parallelly in this graph itself how many customers you'll get right at the end of, like, in every year. Maybe you can show a line also that for each bar these many customers
Right,
probably
right.
will get average. So that can then talk about both the aspects.
Yep.
And GTM, I felt that probably the GTM slides we've talked, you can again omit one of the slides. You're talking about the GTM in at least three slides here, right? The first one, the second, and the third. There is an opportunity to club the ninth and the 11th one, I felt. 10th, yes, these are good logos to put, and you can keep them there. But I feel that you can probably just club the ninth and the 11th one, like, because you're talking about resellers there also. So try, maybe this is a better slide than that one. Maybe not in terms of content, maybe not the results, and you need to link them better. Right now, again, it's a visualization problem. Try to maybe visualize it a little better, like how you want to talk. But the logos thing is good. But then you need to talk about the end result. Here, you don't want to talk about too much about logos. They don't want to see, okay, how many partners. They want to see, like, okay, what will you get out of this? How many customers or something like that. So I
Right.
feel GTM should be restricted to, ideally, I mean, one slide or two slides is enough. So three slides. I think the 10th slide you're more talking about how you've done it so far, right, in the past.
Yep, yep, yep.
So it's one of your strongest suit. You can keep that, but then ninth and 11th you can try to club it into one.
Sure.
Yes, and this is fine. You're talking about your geographical this thing, which is good. If you go down further, building a team, I feel that talking about how you're building a team right now isn't important in the first stage. You can obviously show a team together in one slide, or even just the two of you is fine in that slide. Here you can, I mean, just to concise the deck, I'm talking here because this, when you're creating a story, this might just break the story a little bit, that you're building for execution, which is fine. They want to know how you'll execute. They'll ask you in detail. Maybe in the next stage you send this. The first
Right.
stage you can omit this one if you want to. I feel.
Got it.
And then sorry, we just have the time is up. But then the competition slide, I felt that
I tried using that the two bars one, the traditional and modern, but I don't know, it was not that great. Then I changed it to this way of doing it.
Yeah, the comparison is not coming out here. Maybe the matrix I showed you in my example, I think you can try to use that and try to reduce the number of these brands, because right now it's not talking anything how you are, it's just talking that you are on the modern side and everybody else is behind you. So I mean, it's a very simplistic way of losing an opportunity to talk a little bit more. That whatever you talked initially, I think should come out here. That you solving for 3 stakeholders, or others are only solving for few. Maybe you can have 2 basic matrix variables on the matrix and just map it out there. I think that may be better for you. Or just a table like
Chetan, I think we've run out of time, so I'll have to moderate it here.
No problem.
Yeah, you'll have to. Sorry.
We'll probably take it one-on-one, Deep. We'll connect with Chetan. I would love to invite Asikul from to your shop. Asikul, are you there?
Yeah. Thanks, Deep. Good luck.
Thank you, man. Bye.
Hi, Chetan. Hi, Gautam.
Hi. Hello.
Morning, Asikul. So, Asikul, we'll of course have your deck. If you can share your deck on the screen,
Sure.
We can have you next. Thanks, Deep. I know we cut you short in the last slide, but thank you so much.
You see my scheme?
Yes, Asikul,
Yes.
we can.
There is one more person after this, right, Gautam?
Yes,
Is
Chetan.
the founder there? Yeah. We'll just then
So
do
we're
it.
gonna keep this to 10 minutes. Yeah.
Sure. Are you showing screen? I cannot see right now.
I think Asikul's screen is frozen.
Oh, okay. That's what I
Asikul,
thought.
can you hear us? Okay,
Probably do the next one.
we'll move to the next one, and we'll probably have a sequel after this. So do we have Finema here? Yes, we have Finema. Team Finema, can you hear me?
Yeah, there was one person initially here to present. Yeah. It's from cinema only.
Yeah, I think I can see Apichet.
Yeah, Apichet, right? Yeah.
Hello, hi. Abhishek speaking.
Apichet,
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you meant Asiko, the previous person.
No. So Apichet, if you can share your screen, we can have your deck.
All right. Okay. Right. It's here. You see my screen?
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. So I'm based out of Bangkok, Thailand. My name is. You can call me Sheikh for short. We are called Finima. So what we are doing, the future of digital identity through decentralized identity, right? And the problems that we see today are paper problems, or we call them paper credentials. They are global standards for credentials, but they do not work online, and there is no equivalent. Also, the problem is that it cannot be onboarded online. It's prone to fraud and can be tampered with. Most important of all, there is no interoperability with these paper credentials.
Yeah.
The only thing that says who we are in the online world is username and passwords. And then users are frustrated with passwords because we keep forgetting them. It's keep getting hacked. We have so many accounts. And then these frustrations are passed on to the organizations. Organizations are also impacted. So our goal is to disrupt what you know authentication. So basically disrupt passwords, what you know. And we build digital identity infrastructure that offers higher security and higher convenience through passwordless authentication. So this is the picture of the passwordless authentication, the solution we provide. It's a pre-integrated solution with the major service providers that are all giant techs, Microsoft, Azure. You can see them on the right. Another problem we see is that there's a problem with centralized PKI. Various cases that centralized PKIs has been compromised. We are shifting from centralized PKI to decentralized PKI. At Finima, we build everything based on open standard, next generation DPKI. And we base everything on trusted and open standards. That is called the W3C decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials. So the solution to decentralized PKI is the certification platform where organizations could issue and verify certifications. Signing platform, and this is the whole system of our solution, where organizations could issue a digital credential. This digital credential could be stored in the phone, or it could be stored even for people without devices. And then you could use this credential to present it to the verifier. The verifier will not have to go back and check with the issuer. Rather, they could just read the public key from the blockchain, and they could trust this file immediately. So when this file is in a verifiable credential format, right, the verifier could check 4 things. They could check who is the issuer. They could check who is the legitimate holder. They could check whether it's been tampered or not, and whether it's been revoked or not.
Okay.
So the opportunity we see, right, that organizations are fighting back to offer passwordless authentication, and then by 2022, Gartner is saying that 60% of large enterprises will adopt it, and 90% of SMEs will use it. So that confirms that one of the products are in line with the market growth. Also, we see a shift, in centralized PKI to decentralized PKI. By 2024, we're going to see a major shift on this. And our business model is subscription-based revenue. We go in behind the solution implementers and consultants. We target government, enterprise, and universities by offering software subscriptions. And also we do software as a service for small, medium enterprises and tech companies. In 2020, we achieved a $330,000 revenue. Sorry, this is a slight mistake. $300 revenue.
Which slide are you on? I can see slide 11 on your screen.
Slide 13, I think.
So slide 13, yes.
Yeah, I can see that, Gautam.
Okay, right. So
Yeah,
in 2021, we are expecting $7 million in US revenue. Our ambition to become a leader in this region, right, is reinstated by Gartner. Gartner is mentioned in the paper in January 2020, alongside with Microsoft and IBM. For vendors doing decentralized identity and verifiable claims. Our partners in Thailand are major system integrators at the moment. And the founders has over 12 years in enterprise IT and decentralized architecture and public-private key infrastructure. We are raising this round 7 to 10 million for 10% equity for us to build new products, expand our team, and create partnerships in Singapore, Japan, Korea, and Indonesia. Currently we have an office in Thailand and in Singapore. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I missed a couple of slides because I opened the wrong version here. So
no, this is good. I think very exciting stuff. You're doing something really big and much needed in the industry. I feel that the pitch deck has all the elements that you want to talk about, but let's figure how can you make it better, because I felt that there are certain slides, of course, that are really big, very important, and maybe you want to design them better. If you go back to slide 3, just to start with, I mean, if you go back to slide 1 also.
Okay. Yeah, let me just share the screen again, I think.
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what was the one I was going to show. I think slide 1. Yeah, right.
Okay, so there's a different flow. I mean, I know the founders can come in later when you're presenting. The founders can be the first slide. You can start with that.
Right.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Let it be there. So this is a good one. The problem slide, I think it's pretty good. With the image used, and the text is also very sort of to the point. The next one, that's slide 4. Here maybe you want to talk about the problems, in terms of also a lot more numbers. I mean, the numbers are not really coming out on the right hand side. I think probably it's more important than the left one, and maybe you can highlight that a little bit better. How the organizations are impacted. Maybe what are the 3-4 ways the organizations are impacted. You can mention that. So the problem needs to little come out better because it's a huge problem, right? So just it's I think the one of the respondent is taking too much space, so that it's just can you go back to the previous version only, because I have my slide numbers mentioned as per that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Right. Yeah, it's okay, sure. This one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I think the slide 5, if you go to slide 5. So what I felt here is that, the blockchain part at the bottom, it's a very good slide. It's a very good attempt at visualizing the slide, but it's again, you need to sort of make it a little like our DPKI approach hasn't been talked yet, and we are talking about the DPKI approach here. So maybe you want to give a little bit context of the DPKI before talking about it here, in this slide.
Okay.
Yeah. And the blockchain node and maybe that part you can reduce the size of that, because it's just going to take too much attention otherwise, because the top one is more important right now to understand, right?
Right.
So also what I felt is 7, 8, 9, all those slides, again, very good examples of slides visualized, but are they important for the investors to understand right now at this stage? Like for example, rather than the certification platform, how it works, the investor is more interested in knowing, what happens because of the certification platform. Like when you were talking, you were talking about the advantages, which I like. Maybe you want to mention those more, because he won't get everything here, and you don't even need to explain him at this stage, because they might just get a little overwhelmed by, the whole tech part here. They just want to know, okay, you guys are doing something, and how you're doing, and what happens with whatever you're doing. So try to do that in all the 3 slides. Try to simplify them and bring out the advantages better. The advantages that you were talking about when you were talking these, they are not coming out here. So So try to talk those rather than going into detail, because usually the investors don't get, they would ask all this, you can put it in the appendix slide, but you don't need to put it in the main story slide.
Right. Okay.
But having said that, these are really nicely done to explain somebody, but it's just that the investor may not know, and then it's breaking the story also. You started off nicely, and then going into the detail here, it's not going with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah. Understand. Yeah. I actually the other version would better explain it. I messed it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for your feedback.
That's okay. And just on the competition slide, the last part, like here, this is a very good slide, the complete system one. Again, you were talking about there at that time. So I think this is your product in general. Whatever happens, this is your entire product, right? In general.
Right.
So like what you were talking, like the verifier doesn't have to go back and to the issuer and all those things. They just need to be captured a little better here. Maybe in the next slide, they can be captured. What are the advantages of going this way? So I mean, that's about it. I mean, happy to, if you can email me the other version. I mean, once you have a revised, happy to give feedback again. But a few of these slides, like 11th or even 12th, you can just design it a little better so that they don't have to read a lot in this. It's just too much to read. Try to visualize them pictorially. How can you present these better?
Right. Okay.
Use the content in these. Yeah.
I kind of agree with Chetan, right? So when there's a lot of text, the eye kind of skips it, and it just goes to the icons and the images. And what happens is usually when there's a slide and you also speak at the same time, the eye kind of skips zones on the screen that has a lot of text. It just looks into the icons while the ear focuses on listening to what you're saying. So, and that will be a waste of space and a lot of text on the screen. You would rather put a couple of more icons there that visually represent what it is doing, because anyways, on the listener's side, they are not reading it, right? They're only going to be listening to you. So if there are at least a couple of icons there or images instead of those text, there's a better correlation between what is there on the screen with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, other than that, very good stuff. I think this is a good attempt at the pitch deck. I mean, there's just some things that you can make it better, and I also feel this is something that I always recommend, that putting equity right now at this stage may not be the best thing to do. Right, you are raising money, but I don't know if it's a cultural thing and you want to put it. Usually, the pitch decks here, we don't really put in the first stage how much we're going to give, because that's obviously as per the negotiation also. Gautam, what's your feedback there? I saw it in the Deep's deck also previously. I don't know if it's something that's more cultural that investors expect outside, but here we usually don't put it in the first stage how much equity we are giving with that much money.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Understand.
Cool then. Thank you. Thanks and congratulations to the team. Yep.
Thanks a lot, Chetan and team.
Yeah. Hope
Pleasure.
this was helpful.
Thank you so much, Abhishek, and all the best for your journey. It's a very interesting product.
Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you so much. I think, Chetan, we've come to the end of the session. We don't have Asikul joining us. He's had a power failure. So Asikul is a very, very interesting entrepreneur, though someone you should definitely catch up with. Asikul runs Priya in Bangladesh. I'm sure he would have been excited looking at your Kirana King example, which is very similar to what he's running in Bangladesh. So I'm sure he would love to connect with you one-on-one.
Sure.
But having said that, I think it's been a very, very interesting 90 minutes with you. Because the way we've taken this 90 minutes of you running us through what the standard frameworks have been from what you've built so far, what are the thumb rules while creating a deck, taking some of the questions. We have close to 8 to 10 questions, and then actually speaking to some of our entrepreneurs. And the best part is these entrepreneurs from different regions. I think thank you so much on behalf of the entire Microsoft team for joining us. And of course, like I said, we will continue to connect you with entrepreneurs that want to have more detailed conversations, because of course we were able to do a short 10-minute check with 3 entrepreneurs. I'm sure these entrepreneurs, as well as a lot more who are viewing today's session, would love to connect with you. Of course, some of them have already been tweeting, but those who are interested in connecting with Chetan, do drop us a mail. Me, Kabir, or any of the Microsoft team members, we would be more than glad to connect you with Chetan on mail, so that you can directly, connect with him, sync up with him, get your decks reviewed, and see how you can improve it. Be it on your investor deck or your customer deck. Right. So ultimately, what I would love to end this with is, we are what we are based on how we communicate what we do. Right. So while as entrepreneurs, the best version of our decks lie here. And there was a question that someone raised on who should be involved as a part of the venture on, while preparing the deck. Right. Nobody better than the founder himself, because you know the best version of your venture, right? In terms of the past, present, and the future, in terms of what needs to go into the deck, right? So, as a founder, involve yourself, because you're so passionate about what you're building, the problem that you're solving for, and the roadmap that you're building for, right? So, as a founder, involve yourself. And I think the problem is, the deck is here, right? How do we bring all that is here? And when we bring it out, it is so unstructured, right? Because there's so much that is here, right? How do we bring it out into a more structured format, so that it is understandable by people on the other side, right? Assuming that the other person not understand the problem that you see, the way that you see, and not understand the solution, right? How do you make him understand the gravity of the problem that you're solving and the importance of the solution that you're bringing to them? I think it's very, very important. Be it a customer, be it the government, be it a partner like Microsoft, be it an investor, or be it even your next employee, right? Unless you're really able to bring out the story and connect with them, there is no way you're going to impress them to come on board and join your rocket ship. So all the best to all of you in building the next unicorn here. Like we always say, it's the highway to the next 100 unicorns. So all the best to the next unicorn story. And while we continue to support you, we would love to keep having updates from what's happening at your end. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Right. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.